To the Million Gold Nuggets podcast, where four dynamic women unite to share transformative insights on mindset, manifestation, spirituality, and the invaluable gems of wisdom that can elevate your life. We are parents, entrepreneurs, and friends from diverse corners of North America, passionate about sharing the lessons we've learned and implemented in our own journeys. Each week, join Jennine, Leslie, Amber, and myself as we dive into heartfelt conversations that inspire and uplift, blending personal development strategies, manifestation, and practical wisdom. Whether you're aiming for success, seeking personal growth, or simply looking to fine-tune your mindset and energy, we've got the golden nuggets you need to turn your dreams into reality. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and prepare to soak up the insights that can spark your transformation. Together, let's forge a path to collective growth and expansion, because the journey to fulfillment is all about collecting those precious gold nuggets. Welcome to the show. I'm Nicole, your host for today. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the law of polarity. What is it exactly? Why is it so impactful in our everyday lives? And how we can use it to our advantage. But before we dive into the discussion questions and the description, I want to say hello and welcome to my beautiful co-hosts. How is everybody?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So excited to be here and to continue our discussion on the natural laws or the manifestation laws of the universe. So again, today we're looking at the law of polarity. So what is the law of polarity? Well, it states that everything has an opposite. It's essential for balance within the universe. This principle suggests that duality is inherent in all aspects of life. One cannot exist without the other. So there's an opposite to each and everything. For instance, concepts like light and dark or love and hate illustrate how opposites are interconnected and defined by their contrasts. So while these opposing forces may seem distinct or different, they are part of the same continuum. So understanding one is often reliant on understanding the other. This law implies that our experiences and emotions are polarized. To appreciate joy, we must also recognize sadness. So by acknowledging this duality, we can better navigate our feelings and experiences, finding growth in challenges and resilience in adversity. Ultimately, the law of polarity teaches that embracing opposites enriches our understanding of existence, helping us to achieve greater insight and balance in our lives. So to help us understand this law a little bit more, we're going to dive into some questions with my beautiful co-hosts, and they are going to give us all of their beautiful insights on this law. So the first question I have for you ladies is, how does the law of polarity affect our understanding of personal growth and resilience during tough times? And perhaps you can share some examples of your own life.
Well, I think you kind of said it, you talked about an example, right? Like talking about, like if all we knew was happiness, right? That's all that we ever knew. There's nothing to expand, right? Because knowing what we know about us, right? Choosing this lifetime and choosing to grow and expand, if all there was happiness, we would never grow and expand because that's all that there was, right? But having that polarity, right, of sadness, then when you are in that happy moment, you're able to understand it and appreciate it so much more better, right? And all kinds of other things, right? Like having the fear, right? Then knowing what love is, because without the fear, we wouldn't know what the love is, right? So I think that's really helpful. And from my own personal experience, I used to live with the identity of depression, right? I had that label for more than half of my life. So I actually didn't know anything other than that, right? And without that, and now since shifting into a different identity of somebody that doesn't have that, right? I now know what the other side is, right? And I have moments of sadness, right? As we all do. We came here to experience human emotion, so it happens, but that's not the bulk of what I live in. But living that, I'm truly able to experience those happy, joyful moments because I was able to experience that and grow and expand out of it. So it's really polarity is huge for growth and expansion.
I love that example. Thank you so much.
I guess it's just the same thing that you're talking about in terms of success. You can't know what success is if you haven't had failure. And then you have to know that, well, if there's the reason that maybe I failed at something or something didn't happen for me is because something better is coming my way, right? That's better than that thing that we were trying to achieve. So the opposites can really help us in moving past something we believe is a failure or something we believe we wanted and we weren't able to do it, but knowing that, okay, the opposite to that is there's probably something better.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because everything has an equal and opposite thing or reaction or, or potential to have an opposite. So if you're failing at something, you have potential to succeed, right? If you're sad, you have potential to be happy. And vice versa. But I mean, it's about you can choose which side of the spectrum you wish to stay on the majority of the time. But of course, we need to experience them all because they're all part of the same continuum. And in order to really know and understand one piece, you have to know and understand the opposite. It's just the way it is. We wouldn't know what high is if we didn't know what low was, right?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. And I think that during the fearful times or the sad times, that's an opportunity for us to cultivate gratitude and, more positivity in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And an opportunity to stand in faith, knowing that there is something better. There is something, more prosperous, more abundant, more happy for us. If we're not getting the thing that we thought we want, well, that's because the opposite is better. I love that Leslie said that.
Yeah.
That's such great.
When you find yourself in those low places, you want to, as quickly as possible, gravitate to the opposite, to the complete opposite. And so just knowing or feeling that you're depressed and you have a choice to gravitate to the more positive, brighter side of things. And so you do things or whatever to cultivate the brighter side.
Yeah, I love that. It's like aligning your energy to that which you want, because if we're asking for something, if we're manifesting something, it means that we're asking for it as a whole, and the whole means what we want and the opposite. So we can experience both. So we have to be prepared to experience the opposite in order to experience the thing that we truly desire as well. Yeah.
Well, I always just think of, well, it's great because there's only two things that could happen. It's not like a whole plethora of things. You either have it or you don't. You either are or you aren't, right? And so it makes it easy. So I get a choice. one way or the next. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. It really does give us this opportunity to choose, right? Like really, when it puts it into perspective, it's this or that,
It
which,
just makes it easy to choose because I don't have to
yeah,
choose a lot of things. You know,
yeah,
I go into a restaurant, and if it has like a book of, you know, things that I can order from, I hate that because I can't choose. There's too many choices. So
yeah,
with the law of polarity, I got two. That's it.
yeah. It's this or that. I love those. Yeah, it's less brain power, less stress.
Yes.
I love that. Does anybody have anything else they want to share on that question? Well, we kind of touched on this topic, but this question is, how can the law of polarity guide our feelings about success and failure? How does being aware of this principle affect our mental health and our relationships when we face different emotions?
Well, I can just think about like grieving. So you're going through the grieving process because somebody maybe died, or somebody, you know, you broke up in a relationship, whatever it might be. And you go through the grieving process, but you know that eventually you're going to be okay. You know that eventually, like, you might always think about that person, and you might have very strong, you know, love for that person, but you know that that grief is going to dissipate, and you're going to be happy and be able to continue on with life eventually. And so knowing that that's going to happen, it's kind of makes you feel good. You know, it's just a process I have to go through, you know, to deal with whatever's going on, right? Same with like being happy or sad, maybe even being depressed, right? Obviously, if you don't know anything else, it makes it difficult, like Amber was saying. But once you know there is something different, you can work your way through getting to that next state, right?
Yeah, knowing that this too shall pass, right? When the
Yeah.
pendulum
So
swings, it comes back. So, it's just, and I mean, we'll be talking about that in one of our later laws, the law of rhythm. But what goes up must come down, right? What goes back, it must come forth. Like when you swing a pendulum, it doesn't go out here and stick, it comes back. So just like our emotions, our feelings, what's going on in life, we might have some lower moments, but it is going to get better. It always does.
That brings up a story. Back in the wintertime, I was driving one of my husband's trucks and it broke down. And so I turned the truck off. It was freezing, and I mean frigid, freezing. So I turned it off because I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if I was going to harm it if I turned the truck on to keep warm or not. And of course, I called him, and he was like over an hour away. And I bundled up and what I had, whatever things I found. And I was sitting there just freezing my buns off. And but I knew in my mind, I kept thinking of a warmer climate. I kept thinking of, just things of warmth. And I knew that it's not going to be this way always. I'm going to get out of this situation. And I just kept that in mind until an hour and a half later, he came. But yeah, I mean, so, even in just different situations, um, the law of polarity can still work because that, you know, it's this or that. It's not going to be that way always when you're down in the dumps and you can lift yourself up. I knew I wasn't going to stay in that freezing cold forever and die there. So I
Yeah.
lifted myself up in my own mind, which helped me get through that situation.
And I'm sure you appreciated that heat that much better.
I was just
Oh.
thinking
when you
that.
thought about it.
Oh, honey, you have no idea. My toes stayed frozen for a few days, though.
My goodness.
Got a little worried about that, but
Yeah, that would be a little bit worrisome for sure. But that's such a great story and such a great example of how, how it can impact your mental health, right? Because had you gone down the road of like, it's so cold, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna freeze to death, and thinking about all the doom and gloom and what could possibly go wrong. I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, you would have maybe be singing a different tune or telling a different story, right?
Yeah. I probably wouldn't have been so happy when I finally did see him.
Yeah.
but I allowed myself to be grateful and to be, just happy, just, when I did see him and when he did come to my rescue, it was like, oh, thank you, God.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
it's just the knowing that it's gonna end,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So it's all about like, if you're having a bad day, well, you just
Yeah,
know that, well, when you could turn it around and choose, or just know, well, the day's gonna end, I'm gonna go to bed and tomorrow's a new day and I can be happy tomorrow, right?
exactly. That's why I think that it can work in different situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like, if you're experiencing something, and we've talked about, this in past episodes, like if what you're seeing in your 3D world is not reflecting what you want, it's an opportunity to make a decision of what you do want. So, there's perhaps that, right? Like, what are you focusing on? Of course, there's two sides to every coin. It's part of the same coin, though. Even though they have two opposing sides, it's still part of the same. So you have to experience one side to experience the other, right? So just knowing that in itself kind of gives you that sense of fulfillment because you're experiencing the whole of the situation and you're appreciating things that much more because perhaps you've seen the opposite. And usually in the law of attraction and when you're manifesting things and calling things in, it's normal to see the opposite first and to not get discouraged, right? Like just look at that as evidence that the actual thing is coming. So
So it's such a good example, Nicole. Such a good explanation. It just makes me think about the storm. We have the storm, we have the calm before the storm, we have the storm, and then we have the calm after the storm.
yeah,
Right?
that's true. Yeah, so true. Well, thank you for your answers, ladies. My last and final question is how can we use the law of polarity to promote a growth mindset in ourselves and others, especially when dealing with challenges?
I would just say see it as right, because if we understand that the contrast has to come first, um, then when we're in that moment of contrast where there's just an emotion or maybe something in the 3D reality, right? Getting excited because then we know, right? Like me and Jennine talk about April showers bring May flowers, right? So instead of being angry all of April that it's raining, right? Depending on where you are, if it rains a lot like here, then instead be excited because come May, I'm gonna have these beautiful flowers or my trees or whatever. So we can use that in the same concept with anything, right? If you're angry, if you're, like I said, 3D stuff's happening, you can see it and get excited because then the other side is coming, right? Of that. So having that mindset instead of just, everything's happening to me, life's terrible, all these things, right? Like, if maybe some viewers that are watching are in that. I mean, I used to live in that, right? Everything's always happening to me. What was it, Murphy's Law or Was it Murphy's Law? I don't even remember anymore because I'm so far removed from all of that. But like, what can go wrong goes wrong, right? I used to
Yeah.
say that all the time. Of course, uh, if it'll happen to me, right? All these things. So, um, but since shifting into looking at it in a different way, right? Awesome. This contrast is happening. Yay! I'm excited because that means there's the other side, right?
Mhm.
So I think that just really helps to shift out of that mindset, and then that's what you believe to be true will be true for you. So
I think just
Yeah.
knowing that there is the opposite to how you're feeling or what you're doing or what you're experiencing can help with the growth mindset. Know that, okay, so if I, if I make this much money and I want to make more money, I know that it's possible because first other people have already done it. And there's another side to this amount of money. There's more money over here, right? Whatever that money might be, right? Like if I don't have any, then I can get more. So I think just knowing that there is that opposite and that it has been achieved by other people. So why can it not be achieved by me? Whether it's my emotions or something that I desire, right?
Yeah, I think that the law of polarity, can inspire us to take proactive steps to overcome challenges, by embracing the positive side and seeking opportunities for growth.
Yeah. And it kind of, it coincides with our previous episode on the law of relativity, right? Like, what are we giving meaning to this? Because even though they're opposite, they're just opposite. It doesn't mean that they're good or bad. They're just opposite.
Mhm.
So it's like, what meaning are we giving to these things? So it really does allow us to look at things like, success versus failure and see them in a different light, right? Reframe it into a way that we would want to see it, right? Yeah. Any last minute thoughts on this topic, ladies? This has been so good. Are we all good? Well, thank you so, so much. I have here just one more thing. So I wrote down, by using the law of polarity as a guiding principle, we can cultivate environments ripe for growth, resilience, and emotional awareness. These strategies not only empower individuals, but also strengthen communities, fostering a culture where challenges are embraced as essential components of the human experience. So it makes me feel good because it lets me know that we're not alone in this. We're all experiencing this together.
Mhm.
So thanks everyone for tuning into the Million Gold Nuggets podcast. If you got value out of this episode or think someone would benefit from it, please hit the share button and don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon so you don't miss an episode. Until we meet again, remember, the journey to fulfillment is all about collecting those precious gold nuggets. Bye for now.